PlayStation 3 was no stranger to quality first-person shooters, but when it comes down to sheer visual fidelity, Killzone 3 presents itself as one that fully succeeds in this category by portraying a gritty and realistic take on the genre. Now, the amount of detail is insane, from the debris flying all over the battlefield to the dynamic particle effects and intricately smooth weapon animations. It all comes together to result in one of the finest looking games on the system. Now, unlike Killzone 2, the third outing offered a lot more variety when it came to the locations that make up the adventure. From strange alien worlds to the snow-filled landscapes of the Arctic, each of them are incredibly rich thanks to the amazing lighting, textures, and many small details that comprise them as a whole. But once you start engaging enemies in combat, this is where Killzone 3 really comes into its own. At times there is so much happening on the screen that it is easy to get lost, but this aspect really contributes to the feeling of being on a battlefield, and as a result, no matter how insignificant the type of enemy you come up against is, it always feels challenging and immersive. If you're a fan of first-person shooters and are looking to get into one on the PlayStation 3, then this one is well worth checking out. The PlayStation 3 was home to a generous selection of RPGs, but one that continues to impress to this day has to be Ni no Kuni. Working alongside Level 5, Studio Ghibli had a hand in creating the incredible art style that Ni no Kuni presents. The cel shading aesthetic makes all of the environments come to life in a world that is rich and vibrant. Everything is vivid, with each and every character possessing their own distinct identity and style that lends the experience a real charm not often found in others on the market. One of the most impressive achievements though is that despite being inside the gorgeous animated world, there is a strong sense of realism. The cutscenes contribute to this aspect and are always a real treat to watch. A good number of scenes are fully animated, while many more are rendered by the game engine that still manage to hold the bar set by Ghibli. But given the nature of the game's visual style, in-game rendered scenes can look perfectly natural and is fluid as well. If you were to freeze frame during one of these scenes or even during normal gameplay, it can sometimes be hard to distinguish it from the cutscenes. Because of this, Ni no Kuni is a really immersive adventure and is bound to draw you into its world and the events that take place. But for fans of Studio Ghibli, it can be far more than that, because it can easily give you the feeling that it all takes place inside one of their movies. If you're a fan of the genre and still haven't got around to playing it, Ni no Kuni is quite easily one of the finest RPGs on the system that well and truly deserves your time. The Metal Gear series has always been on the cutting edge when it comes to graphical presentation. Hideo Kojima introduced us to the cinematic experience on a level we had never seen before. Many games before it had wonderful presentational aspects, but none had the coolness of Hollywood implemented in such a masterful way. From the first entry right up until the last, each game has consistently pushed the boundaries of the machine that it's developed on, and Metal Gear Solid 4 continued this trend. It managed to push the series forward in a number of meaningful ways. The first characteristic many will notice is the sheer diversity of locations you'll be visiting throughout the adventure. From the scorching sun of the Middle East to the blistering cold of Shadow Moses, with a variety of weather effects and dynamic lighting playing a key role in bringing them to life. The attention to detail in the environments is unmatched. Leaves blowing in the wind, water ripples and HDR lighting, along with all the little unique details the developers took the time to model, is just absolutely incredible. As with the previous games in the series, a variety of cutscenes portray the narrative, and in true Kojima fashion, they are all directed with the usual flair and finesse many gamers have come to expect. Metal Gear Solid 4 will continue to stand as one of the greatest achievements on the PlayStation 3. If you've never got round to playing it for yourself, the perfect time to do so would be right now. Like many players out there, I've always had a bit of a checkered history when it comes to Final Fantasy XIII. There is no denying that from a gameplay perspective, the game failed on many levels, but when looking at the experience solely in terms of graphical fidelity, without question, Final Fantasy XIII is one of the most graphically breathtaking games on the system. Everything you see, everything you do, and everything that exists is painstakingly detailed and full of character. Each member of the cast, as well as enemies and locations, brought the the series soaring into the modern HD era, with the usual flair Square Enix had become so well known for. As with previous entries, there's a ton of FMV sequences that help convey the story. Some of the in-game scenes almost look like an FMV within themselves. From the design, the character placement, the lighting, they were all pretty convincing thanks to the engine that the game used. Once in battle though, the game truly comes into its own. Each attack and magical ability would light up the screen in style and lend a real weight to each enemy encounter. Bits of cast magic would remain lodged on the field, gigantic summon monsters animated with all the grace and fluidity as any real-life creature might, as with the characters and monsters themselves. It really was a real visual feast, but it's just a shame the story and general setup of the adventure would hold the experience back, resulting in what felt like a linear and at times mundane experience. The Uncharted series has become one of Sony's flagship titles, and with each new release has continued to refine the formula that makes it up. A hallmark of the franchise is the impeccable presentation, and Uncharted 3 is no exception. The third outing sees Nathan Drake set out on another globe-trotting adventure with a bunch of impressive environments for it all to play out in. From the dingy back alleys of London to the sweltering heat of the Sahara, each of them are lovingly presented and detailed, with them all offering a whole range of gameplay possibilities for players to take advantage of. Now, Naughty Dog proved with Among Thieves that the PlayStation 3 is capable of putting out some unbelievable visuals, and with Drake's Deception they let out the rest of the tricks they had up their sleeve. Blistering sandstorms to rushing waters and burning buildings, and with the amount of enemies and effects on screen at any one time helped push the game into something truly memorable. The series has become well known for its insane set-piece moments, and Drake's Deception delivers on this aspect wholeheartedly as well. Each of the character models were nothing short of extraordinary, with the way in which they are animated only complementing the overall quality of their design. Uncharted 3 still stands as a testament to the talent of the team behind it, and is truly still impressive to this day. Gran Turismo has always had a reputation for the incredible visuals that each and every iteration produces. Right back to the first game in the series on the PlayStation 1, it has always prided itself upon providing one of the most realistic simulations of the sport, and the 6th entry is no deviation from this rule. After the somewhat lackluster attempt with Gran Turismo 5, the next installment delivered on what racing fans have been waiting for. Visually, Gran Turismo 6 is to the PlayStation 3 what God of War 2 was to the PlayStation 2, a late technical triumph that took advantage of the system's hardware in many unique ways. It presents itself in a stable 60 frames per second and 1080p resolution, which results in some of the cleanest and smoothest imagery you'll see on the PlayStation 3. Various new techniques were deployed, such as improved textures and a completely revamped lighting engine that helped each track and car come to life in a way that had not been seen from the series in the past. Of special note were the cars, and although not all of them were modelled completely from scratch, the ones that were looked absolutely incredible. Every aspect was lovingly recreated, from the subtle details of the interior to the slick and smooth textures of the exterior. Seeing it in motion was a real sight to behold, and lent the on-screen racing even more realism. If you're looking for a racer on the PlayStation 3 and don't want to settle for anything other than the best, then Gran Turismo 6 would be a great choice. Grand Theft Auto 5 has released for a whole range of consoles at this point that all clearly offer a superior experience than the PlayStation 3 release, but not including it would be doing a disservice to the clear level of craftsmanship that went into developing it for the system. Now, Rockstar have always been masters of open world design, and Grand Theft Auto 5 saw everything they had learned up until that point being implemented to create the city of Los Santos. The first thing to note is the size of the environment and the range of different locations within it, from the dense urbanscapes of downtown to the more rustic and rural nature of the outback. The amount of detail packed into each really helps the city feel like a living and breathing space. Just like most games in the series, you can expect to find a wide array of vehicles in which to use that are remarkably detailed and designed, as well as a series of weapons that allow you to lay waste to the entire city and watch the various explosions and particle effects light up the screen in a spectacular fashion. It's all presented in 720p and manages to hang around 30 frames per second whilst playing. Naturally, the more actions you carry out on screen, it's more prone to various dips, but nothing that will likely pull you out of the adventure. Like I mentioned earlier, you can now play it on a variety of superior platforms, but there is no denying that Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PlayStation 3 is something truly special when you consider the wealth of content and detail that the city of Los Santos provides. Let's get the obvious out of the way first. When it comes to God of War on the PlayStation 3, the third entry in the series is objectively superior to Ascension from a gameplay standpoint, but for what it lacks in originality and narrative, it more than makes up for in graphical prowess. Ascension is a gorgeous, jaw-dropping game. It's no surprise either, as it released towards the end of the PlayStation 3's lifecycle, so Santa Monica pulled out all of the stops when it comes to the visuals present in the game. Rain, wind, and fire effects are spectacular, as well as each and every character model that possesses a level of detail not often seen on the system. But perhaps the most impressive aspect is the environmental design and the true sense of scale it manages to portray. Kratos travels through, over, and around some absolutely gigantic areas, and each time you'll want to take a second to marvel at just how amazing the surroundings look. Matching all of this are the buttery smooth animations that feel incredibly responsive and tight. You'll be taking out wave after wave of enemies in style, thanks to the generous amount of abilities the game provides you. It really does make the combat the true star of the show, and cements Ascension as one of the most impressive titles on the system. Like I said, God of War 3 is clearly the better game, but when it comes to visuals, there is no denying that Ascension is still one of the best looking games to come out of the series. After several successes with the Uncharted series, Naughty Dog took their tried and tested formula and produced what is arguably the best game on the system. Now, much like the Uncharted series before it, an intense focus upon graphical presentation is at the forefront of the experience. Due to the subject matter, each environment has been left to the mercy of nature, resulting in urban landscapes that look absolutely breathtaking. There will be times you'll have to just stop and use the camera to fully take in each surrounding. It helps the world of The Last of Us feel like a real place and goes a long way in contributing to the narrative. As you would expect, each member of the cast sees the same level of detail lent to their appearance, as well as the way in which their movements are animated. There really was nothing like this before. With Joel seamlessly interacting with the environments and enemies, it resulted in every single encounter raising the tension, no matter how big or small. Thankfully, a remastered version was released for the PlayStation 4 and is the best way to play it today, but there is no denying what Naughty Dog achieved on the PlayStation 3 with The Last of Us. It feels like a real swan song for the console and is a testament to the talent of the team behind it. Quantic Dream have always excelled at creating some of the best cinematic games on console. Beyond Two Souls saw players taking on the role of a girl named Jodie as she unraveled an intriguing mystery that blended both the world of the living with that of the dead. Upon booting it up, it soon becomes apparent that a lot of love and attention has gone into the visual design of the experience. At the time of its release, it genuinely looked like a next-gen game and was largely achieved by including borders on both the top and bottom of the image, so more effects and detail could be lent to the on-screen action due to the smaller resolution. But the most impressive aspect of the visuals have to be the level of detail present in every character on screen. With it being an experience all centered around a touching and moving narrative, seeing each line of dialogue delivered and the way in which the emotion of each story beat is portrayed is truly breathtaking. It results in you really connecting to each person you meet and helps the story shine. Well, that does it for today's video. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow us on all of the socials to stay up to date on future videos. You can also join our community on Discord and meet many like-minded gamers to continue the conversation. If you're interested in doing so, you'll find all of these links in the description. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video. I will catch you next time.